Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our second webinar. The first one I think everybody appreciated very much, and we're very happy today to have again some very exciting speakers here in the West Coast of the United States. I'll give the floor to Gerbert first to give some comments on what we have planned for you in a couple of weeks' time in Las Vegas. I just have some messages to state which are quite important for you to make sure you've done. First of all, ensure that you've registered as an exhibitor. We have some events, and Gerbert will explain more about that as well, on the floor whilst or before CES has started. And to ensure that you can attend that event, you need to be registered as an exhibitor. And this is something you need to do yourself. We can't do that for you. So you need to make sure that you have done that. And secondly, I wanted to mention that we've now also got in the air a dedicated CES website for the Holland Pavilion, which is nlintheusa.com/CES. And on that website, we will put our program of the events that we're conducting on the floor, as well as around it. We'll have a bit of an information tags as well on all the startups that are participating so that we can also use it for external promotion. And yeah, so we try to keep that website a little bit as our information stream, which we'll also update as we go to Las Vegas and during Las Vegas. So you'll also find the latest information on there. But with that, very happy to give the word to you.
Thank you very much, Michiel. Thank you for your introduction. Well, good evening, good morning here in San Francisco. It's great to have you all back here at our webinar. For us, it's of course an exciting time. We are preparing, we are working on the last details of the program. And maybe just to mention some of the highlights of the program, I would guess that it's for you quite important, of course, to first finish your booth, the setting up of it. You'll be maybe ready on Monday around 3. And then at 5 o'clock, we have a hoodies drink. This is sort of informal gathering where we sort of celebrate the start of CES. You'll get some introductions of Michiel, some practicalities, and we have our Prince, our startup envoy, who will sort of share with us his message for CES. And the next day, Tuesday, we will sort of do a formal opening, if you like. We will first have a fireside chat with our Prince and 2 guests, and then 3 o'clock we have our official opening. At 5 o'clock, very important moment, we have our official network reception. We will not call it network reception because we all know what we have to do there, but it's more like this is one of the most important moments during our mission to get your guests in touch with us, all of us. So hopefully you took advantage of the opportunity for inviting 4 guests. We got many of you who came up with names, and we all invited them, and we hope to see them at that moment in time. So I already underlined the networking aspect. I think this special evening, this Tuesday evening, is the evening to do that. But of course, all over the 4 or 5 days that you're around, networking is one of the main things. You'll get a lot of tips, I think, from our guests as well, how to do that. And maybe another thing is that we are trying to help you with matchmaking. Some of you sent names in to, be part of the program, be part of the booth, and we are in touch with them. Actually, Lucas, you will meet him on the floor, has reached out to all the ones you've mentioned. And I think we are now in the way that we can maybe come up with a follow-up on that. We will sometimes have an individual approach. So someone you sort of would love to meet, he will or she will show up at your booth. Sometimes we will group them because there was a broader interest of more startups. So that's the way we want to proceed. And I think if there are any questions, please reach out to Lucas or reach us at our email address. And Michiel will mention this email address a little bit later on as well. So that's my part. And indeed, just follow us on our website because the latest of the program will be available right there.
Okay,
Michiel, back to you.
Great. Well, thank you indeed. The email address is still the same one as we've been using previously. So sfn-ces@minbuza.nl. So most of you have already seen that email address. It's also been sent in communication to you. Now, for our first guest, we'll actually be transferring to Menlo Park, where we've got Jacco van der Kooij sitting there. He has also already joined us in this video call this morning. Jacco has a business. Well, he can explain it much better, obviously, than himself. But helping out Dutch companies in general who want to scale in the US and to ensure that their customer satisfaction level stays as it is, from being a startup to a scale up and onboarding many colleagues. And Jacco has also helped out many Dutch companies trying to scale in the US. So he's very well aware of the challenges that you guys are having, in particular in your sales communication. So Jacco, I hope you can hear me and you're happy to start your story. And by the way, everybody, we will be collecting questions as well. So if you've got questions, put them in the chat box and we'll relay them to Jacco so that we can also use them in his presentation. Over to you, Jacco.
Michiel, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me?
Thumbs up. Oh. Horen we hem?
Start with Loek.
Oké. Ja, maar hij kan mij niet horen. Jacco, je microfoon staat uit.
Can you hear me?
Is het beter?
Yeah, can you hear me? There we go. Okay. What you see down here is what I want to start off of explaining to you is 4 stages. And in these 4 stages, you may have different questions along these 4 stages. This is just here to create a framework of your questions. Okay. Now, Lucas, you may click the link to my whiteboard if you can share that link, or I think I have it. I'll copy it quickly in there. Copy my link in there. Command V. There we go. For those of you who want to see the whiteboard, you can click on this and you'll see this picture pop up. In this picture, 4 key stages, and it is really key for us to know the difference. In stage number 1, we're primarily looking for something called minimal viable product, MVP. In stage 2, what we are looking for primarily is product market fit. In stage 3, go-to-market fit. And in stage 4, we're scaling up the company. Those are 4 different stages companies go through. And I want you to really understand where you are. And if you have a question in these stages, then you know what kind of stages, like we know how to address it. Minimal viable product, product market fit, go-to-market fit, and scale-ups. Many of the challenges that we deal with today are essentially not as much with minimal viable product. What we see is the biggest hurdle for most companies is when they get into the go-to-market fit. This is really where we are currently seeing a trend. Now, for those of you, obviously, from the European companies, I got a great message for you. Are you ready for a great message? This may be the message you've been waiting for a long time. It may give you some relief and excitement about your future. Over the past decade, Silicon Valley primarily has turned to companies who were able to solve this problem through shortcuts. Shortcuts such as sales hacking. That meant that companies here in the US investors, they were interested in investing in companies who could grow and reach that scale-up mode by cutting short certain ways of doing it, sales hacking. Guess what? As of 2018, shortcuts are no longer an interest of primary investors here in the US. What they're looking for is companies who adhere to process. We see around the world that companies that are now adhering to a process and that are implementing a process are known to be better scale-up, are better and faster achieving scale-up over the next decade. Western societies, such as the Netherlands and Belgium, per definition, are born with that process mindset. Now, with that said, I'm going to hold off here for a second, and perhaps we can get a few questions to see if there's a few questions that we can answer on this topic. Go for it.
Hi, Jacco. We're still waiting for questions.
And I'll wait patiently. This is the best thing for us to do is if you ask a question on each of stage 1, 2, 3, or 4. What would you like to know?
Okay. Zal ik nu... Okay, Jacco, first question is, what is the key difference between PMFF versus GTMF?
Thank you. That is a great question to ask. So what we do in product market fit, the primary goal of us is to make sure that we find a fit that the product has essentially a market to sell to. And this primarily is based on two things. Okay. Pain versus fit. I want you to clearly understand the difference, pain versus fit. Most people, when they go into this mode, they think that product market fit, as the word, as Andreessen Horowitz, like defined it, or Mark Andreessen defined it, hey, this is about being a fit into the market. But that fit is only relevant if you solve a pain. I'm going to explain to you a practical difference. If I'm selling tires, then every person who has a car would be an opportunity for me to sell to. That is a fit. Those who actually are willing to buy new tires are those who have worn tires. That is a pain. Also, if we now have a conversation, if I say, hey, I notice you have a car, do you want to buy tires? And I'm start sending you email, I notice you have a car, do you want to buy tires? And I go like, I just bought tires 3 weeks ago. What are you talking about? In product market, traditionally, we have gone very hard after people who are a fit. You're a bank, size 2,000 people, you're located in Western Europe, you are a fit. That is not right. We need to go after people who have a pain. So we need to say, the solution I'm selling and the real reason I'm reaching out to you is because you're experiencing this pain. Pain often refers to you being able to identify those in this stage. If you are unable to identify those people, you're going to get this sawtooth. You think you hit it? No, you missed it. You think you hit it? No, you missed it. And as you ziggity-zack, as your revenue comes in, it is a really hard, like you're testing out different markets. In order for you to, in that stage is called achieving product market fit. You're testing the market out and you're figuring out, are your customers willing to buy your product at the set price to solve their pain? Do not go after fit. That's the key mistake in there. In GotoMarket Fit, we're now making sure that we can effectively and efficiently copy and scale this. For example, in product market fit, I may have like a sales organization of 2 inside sales reps or 4, 5, 6 inside sales reps that can sell. But I don't know if a $50,000, $250,000 customer wants to buy from an inside sales rep. They may want to have a field salesperson over the floor. That means that the model we use down here did not work for the bigger market. So we actually have an issue. We have a product market fit for the mid-market or for the smaller market, but we don't have a product market fit for an enterprise market. This also happens the reverse way. What we find during product market fit is like, hey, as a founder, I'm really able to sell my product. Look at this. I'm traveling around the world. I'm selling my product. It's working. Now I'm going into the go-to-market, and in that stage, I'm going to hire a bunch of salespeople, and the salespeople don't travel, so they operate from the office, and suddenly it doesn't scale because the go-to-market fit isn't there. During the product market fit stage, you learn that founder sales, visiting customers really worked, and then you come into the go-to-market fit, and you can't scale that because you can't hire a salesperson for like half the price of the founder and have them have all the same knowledge. It doesn't work. And so you've had a problem here and a problem here. The problem here was you had founder sales, and the problem there is that you couldn't scale that. That is a difference between these two stages. Product market fit is primarily focused on establishing the value for your product. Go-to-market fit is primarily focused on establishing your distribution strategy. How can we sell this into the world?
Okay, Jacco, another question perhaps. You mentioned process over shortcuts. Can you give examples of that, of businesses where you've seen one do the wrong decision and one taking the right decision?
Well, as many of you are in the coming year headed out to SaaSter, I think that if we look back at a good, currently one of our customers, Zenefits a few years ago, about 2 years ago, was renowned for being the fastest startup in the Bay Area. I mean, it was the golden, soon-to-be unicorn, and that one fell on its face. And the reason was they took shortcuts. They hired way too many salespeople. They deployed gimmicks and tricks in the sales approaches. It was an approach, like a very hard-nosed selling, it's almost like a door-to-door sales methodology. That's a shortcut. You think you can, dwindle somebody into a deal. That didn't work. So today we see that in order for a Zenefits to reestablish, they said it's like, look, 6 to 12 months ago, they got rid of that whole crew. And they brought a new crew in, and these people are adhering to proper sales process. They have established what the right price point is. Previously, Zenefits was for free. So they now have figured out what the right product is, which one is the right market. And in this group, they're now using an inside sales organization to deploy and scale. And instead of using the gimmicks, they're now using a proper sales process, train the people on how to have a conversation, set up proper meetings, diagnose the customer rather than just pushing what seems to be free product down the customer's throat.
Other question as well, Jacco. From an investor's perspective and at the go-to-market fit, does that mean that you have to have everything figured out at PMFF stage so that you can explain it to investors before you go to GTMF stage, or is there still room to maneuver?
There is room to maneuver, and I'm going to explain to you the following. Okay, so I want you to know these are good questions you're asking. This is the reason why I want to make sure that you understand. These are real significant, important questions that you want to explain also as you raise your funds. What we see down here horizontally is I am creating 3 bubbles, and I'll just, for the time being, I call this your dollar price, your annual contract value. On the high side, let's say that I have 250K. Super expensive, or rather expensive, annual. These are all annual. And let's focus that on the enterprise market. And let's say that down here in the SMB market, I sell something for like 5K, right? On this axis, I have volume of deals. Now, what you see down here, it creates this area of where we want to be selling at 250K. You will not be doing thousands of deals a month at 250K. I mean, I think only the real estate industry is something that recognizes that. If you have $5,000 deals, you need lots of deals, right? So this is how you see your distribution. A few expensive deals or a few higher value deals, but lots of lower volume, lots of high volume, lower value deals. If you come through this phase, right, and I'll use it with the green, if you come through this phase, but you've done that in the enterprise market, in the SMB market, in this SMB market, you've achieved product market fit. And so now you come here, you may realize, hey, I have this down. But as part of my scaling up, what I'm going to do down here, I'm going to move up market. I want to go to the mid market. This is a part where your VC wants to learn, hey, we've achieved go-to-market fit on the SMB, but on the mid-market, I'm actually back here. I'm still testing it out because that is a new dollar price. That is a higher price. That may be a different group of decision makers. It may even be a total different vertical market. I may go from selling to banks to selling to healthcare. It's in a different market. That means that second bubble, that is not in go-to-market mode yet. This one is in go-to-market fit. This one is still in product market fit. And this may be still in minimal viable product mode. What you cannot assume is that the lessons that you learn here will be applied straight to the other two. You may be help with the knowledge that you learn, but it's not straight away the same knowledge.
Okay, thanks, Jacco. For so far, no further questions. So perhaps just to wrap up.
Yeah, more than welcome to wrap up. So what you want to learn from this, the key takeaways that you want to know is, in order for you to start scaling and in order for you to understand, what you want from companies, and is to first understand where you are. Are you in minimal viable product mode? Are you in product market fit? Are you in go-to-market, or have you achieved scale up? All these 4 different modes require different kind of funding. Minimal viable product often is seed funding, your parents or friends or independently wealthy people. Product market fit, you often get the form of an institutional investor or a VC, depending on where you are in the world. You may actually get some debt financing in order to go there. Once you achieve go-to-market, you often need to scale your sales and marketing resources. In that case, for example, if you go to the US, you need a significant influx. You need like $5, $10, $15 million. In that case, as you go up, then you commonly take your VC round in. If you can prove that you have achieved product market fit, that is a great conversation to have. Scale up obviously is more in the realm of you now have $10, $20 million in revenue, and you now need to move to more manufacturing style processes. And you become you're significantly changing your recruiting. You're opening up multiple offices around the world. Those are your 4 stages. We at Winning by Design, we help primarily companies in that product market fit and go-to-market mode. We have a few, like an Adobe, that is in the scale-up mode, where we help them, reach bigger audiences. That is what we do. If you like more information, feel free to check us out on winningbydesign.com or contact me, Jacco, at winningbydesign.com.
Awesome.
With that, I'll hand it back over
Jacco.
to you.
Thank you so much. It's been very, very helpful for the participants. And we're going back here indeed now at the Consul General to our next speaker, who is sitting right next to me, which is Loek Janssen. Loek, maybe you can introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about your storyline here in San Francisco.
Of course. Thank you, Michiel. I'm here in San Francisco, of course, and I came here to a master's degree, and now I've started Nova, which is my company, and I'm a third co-founder of the company. And I think what will be great for me to talk about today would be a little bit of history about how I came here from the Netherlands into Silicon Valley, and how I started my company, what my company does. And we went through Y Combinator, which was a really great program for us, and I think it'll be very good for me maybe to share some experiences there and go over how we apply to Y Combinator, and maybe some tips or some things. If you want to go there, then I definitely have some suggestions or some points that you can focus on to make sure that you're well prepared, and that you know what is ahead of you. So perhaps to start with an introduction of Nova. We are a 16 people small startup in downtown San Francisco, and we are the first international credit reporting agency of the world. And what that means in a nutshell is that we consolidate all the data from different countries that convey trust about citizens in that domestic market. So in the Netherlands, for example, we have the BKR. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you know the BKR. It's located in Tiel in the Netherlands, and they hold all the information about the Dutch citizens who have borrowed money on mortgages, on credit cards, etc. And you use that data when you apply for a new credit card, because that conveys the trust of how you have borrowed in the past to gain new credit, basically. Now, in the North America, so in Canada and in the US, this system is literally everything. Like, you don't really have an identity if you do not have your credit history in these countries. So what I do with Nova is I connect to all these different countries in the world, to these credit reporting agencies in these other countries, and make it into one format that we then can pass on to the States or to Canada, with, of course, into a nice dashboard and into wrapping it into a really nice product with data analytics and some machine learning products to make it very intuitive and easy to understand. But it's ultimately to help immigrants like myself and a lot of Dutch immigrants who cannot really start a life here because they got to pay everything cash. And in the States, that just doesn't go very far.
No.
Yeah. So we're 16 people, and we started this company 2 years ago at Stanford, and that was the reason why I came to the United States for my master's program. And we went through Y Combinator in my last year of Stanford, and this was an amazing experience for us. And I think that really accelerated our growth, our value of Nova. And maybe to give you a little bit of more background before Y Combinator, before I jump into that, is that we started this at a class at Stanford, which is also a bit of a famous class in startup land here in Silicon Valley. It's called the Lean Launchpad, to which the book, I think it's called The Launchpad. It's a startup book that teaches you the lean methodology and teaches you how to do customer discovery and how to prototype and do rapid MVPs, like Jacco just mentioned. And so from that, we gathered a really strong case that we then applied to with Y Combinator. And in Y Combinator, we had to go through these rounds of interviews and meeting the partners of Y Combinator to get into that program. So let's see, where should I start with telling a bit about Y Combinator? Well, first of all, it was an incredible experience. It was a complete roller coaster. I've had weeks where I have no idea what I was doing. I literally thought this is going to be the end of Nova. This is like, we're way too early. We have no idea how we're ever going to create revenue in this business. It's too hard. And then there were weeks where we had massive growth. We got to customers and we really saw that our value of our whole company and finding our product market fit was there. And it really changes from week to week. And that is something that you should really try to power through, because there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So long as you just keep going and you have a good feeling that you're making progress along the way. So at Y Combinator, we had zero product market fit. We only had 150 customer interviews in that we did at that Lean Launchpad program that I just mentioned. And all these interviews, were for banks and for immigrants like myself who had this problem. So we went to them and we asked, hey, how much credit have you had in the United States? What were the problems in getting credit or getting an apartment lease, which is the same underlying problem? And so with that business case that we had, this 150 interviews and of course a slide deck and a whole go-to-market strategy, and that laid out, put us into a good position for the application rounds for Y Combinator. Because what they really focus on is, have you thought about what you're doing and how have you conducted your research? Even if you have an incredible good idea, you have to think that the people that are interviewing you for Y Combinator have no clue about the market. You should really treat them as if they start from scratch. And so building the case up where you've done all these interviews really shows that you've done the market and there's on the market research, and there is a big target audience, a group that needs what you want to build, right? That you have a core value proposition. And that is one of the most important things that creates a strong application, is do the research. Go out of your comfort zone to step into banks, in our case. Go to these immigrants and talk to them. Whatever it takes, like create a video when you do this and create a business case. A second point that I would love to give for these interviews is it's also all about being extremely transparent in your process. You can create a really good business case and probably create this rosy picture about, oh, we're gonna have $100 million revenue in the first year and make it really shiny and all of those things. But showing that you are also human and that you've run into these problems when you were doing this research, and it's like, oh, in my model, for example, for Nova, it's like we have all these other giants that are already in the market who do these credit reporting agency types of products, but they only operate in their own country, and it's like that's a big risk to us. So we needed to explain what would happen if those guys would take on Nova's business model and start to expand that. And being very candid about that shows character and shows that you are a founder who can face these risks when it comes there and be objective. And I think those two ingredients can create a very strong application, and you really need to practice that. You really need to be sure to just create a strong deck and strong application. And I think if you have that, you'll be fine. And if you feel good about it, you have a really strong chance, a really good chance to get accepted and get in there. How much time do we have?
Well, maybe just as a question, because here at the consultancy, we get many parties indeed who want to go into Y Combinator. Say if you were a startup here from the Netherlands setting up shop in San Francisco, not having done Stanford, not having done Y Combinator or any of those programs here, are you at a disadvantage? Is it more difficult to do business than if you have been in one of those programs?
Yeah. So to set up shop, I like that expression. So to set up shop, I think it is not necessarily more difficult. You can definitely gain a good network here if you start overseas. So let's say you start an accelerator in the Netherlands, and they usually have quite strong ties to, of course, us and other organizations here, and you can get quite far. But to really leverage the synergies that are in this market here in San Francisco, which is partly from recruiting, for example, recruiting amazing talent who are all come here for the same reason, to work on startups and to be really scrappy with resources and to accelerate your network growth. I think that is what you get here. And that is what is most accelerated or acting as a catalyst if you go to Y Combinator, for example, because immediately you just get like drowned. You're being dropped in this pool of all these amazing people that have been startup founders multiple times. They have been investors. They know also in terms of a gossipy way almost of like, who are the guys that work for you and who are the guys that don't work for you, for your business model. And so that makes it easier, unfortunately. So it is really smart to think about a way to go here even for a limited time, to just get exposure to all of this, I think.
Okay, very good. And also, I mean, you mentioned already the talent and everything. What do we need to think about the level of funding, the level of, how big does your business need to be in order to go into a Y Combinator program? Or what do you need to imagine your company to be? Like, there's often this thing that people in the Netherlands, everything is, small, and be sure that you get to your results and do everything slowly. And here it's like, dream big. Is that true, or do you need to be realistic with Y Combinator?
I think for us, it's a very special case. So this is a very, very good question for us. I think the long story short is dream big. It definitely helps, but be realistic when you dream big, right? Like, be realistic how you get to that stage of you being big. So for us, we had zero product market fit. So we had no product other than this really bad prototype that I coded together in the last half year of Stanford. Nobody's ever used that before. And there was another company, which is also a Dutch company, MessageBird, whom you probably know. They were already in the Series A stage. So they've raised already like around 10 to $12 million of funding or more when they came to Y Combinator. So there's a really big spectrum. And it shows that with both dream big ideas, you can get into Y Combinator. But it all matters of like how you're thinking to get there. Can you show that you've thought about it enough that Y Combinator makes sense for your next stage? And even while you're a big company, that can still matter. Right. So I think Y Combinator does a really good job in assessing of like, why does your founding team make a difference in a market you're trying to penetrate or you're trying to enter with your current stage? So dream big, but be realistic. And Y Combinator will be awesome.
Okay. And maybe just a short final question as well. I mean, we've reached out to Y Combinator asking them if they're going to be at CES. They told us no. So how do these companies get on the radar of Y Combinator? Is it indeed, as you said, apply online and do startup school and that process?
Yeah, I think apply online. Even though in most of these, in most of these worlds where it's all about network, applying online, it seems a bit of like an archaic process that seems to go somewhere in the corner and nobody looks at your application. But Y Combinator does a really good job in making sure they read all the applications. So definitely apply online, but be sure to leverage the extra feature that Y Combinator has, which is that a friend can put a recommendation in for you.
Mm-hmm.
Another Y Combinator founder can put in a recommendation for you, and it can have a really transparent process of like, these people are amazing for XYZ, but maybe here they're inexperienced, and you can give a rating as well as a founder to do a recommendation. So that is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Like they really go of that. If you have like 2 or 3 really great recommendations, and they come from a founder team that have also been through many phases of Y Combinator and their growth, then that just builds a great application, and you'll be fine.
Awesome.
Also, reach out to the partners if you can. That's also a big one.
How do you find out who the partners are and how to reach them?
So the partners are on the Y Combinator website.
Uh-huh.
That is, of course, easier said than done to reach out to them, especially if you're not based here and you don't necessarily have those same connections from school or whatever. But dig deep. And usually if you are already dabbling in the startup scene in the Netherlands, then there is some third grade connection in your LinkedIn graph or whatever that you can really reach out to get into or in front of someone. There is enough partners that they cast a big enough, a wide enough net. That doing a bit of effort there, I think would come a far way.
Exactly. Make sure that you've done your research, know who you want to target, and then go through to get that target. Very good. I think we'll conclude with you now. Look, our Consul General, you want to have some final remarks, I think, before we close this webinar.
Stop for a second.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks, Luke. If you still have any final questions, still the moment to ask them, and otherwise I will give the floor to you, Gerbert, to close out this session.
Thank you very much, Michiel. And I would guess after Loek and Jacco, there's not so much to add today. I think thank you very much, Loek, for your great presentation. I think especially this Y Combinator story is, of course, incredibly important for all of you. I would also like to thank Mike and Marco of last webinar. We now have sort of concluded 2 webinars. I think this is all we can offer just before your trip to CES, Las Vegas. We are looking forward to seeing you there. But we are considering, Michiel, isn't it? We would love to continue our webinars. So actually, we're looking forward to getting your input. How did we organize this one? What kind of topics would you love to see on this kind of webinars? We have many trade missions next year. We could foresee these kind of webinars as a sort of preparation for these kind of trade missions as well. But again, it would be quite helpful to have your comments and feedback. As well, I would like just to mention our mentor network. Michiel, maybe it's good to say some words on that. We have, of course, excellent founders, entrepreneurs in the Silicon Valley region, and they are able and willing to help you out. So anytime you have a specific question or request, we might sort of give you this kind of connections. And I think at CES we'll see each other, and we maybe can dig deeper into this kind of networking sort of opportunities we have for you. So thanks again, and looking forward to seeing you all in a few weeks' time at CES Las Vegas. And for you, the final word, Michiel.
Great. No, thanks. Just to mention, as already mentioned at the beginning with Gerbert, we are still progressing on the matchmaking, and we've got, I think, quite a few names now lined up who will visit our stand at CES. So we will confirm as well who we're expecting as well on the network event. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time in Las Vegas. And thanks for participating.